Hey Patreon viewers, how you doing? So it's a bit late in the month to be putting my first Patreon video out, so apologies for that if you've been waiting for it, but and great if you have been waiting for it, that's a good sign. I'm doing a bunch of videos today, so I'm doing you guys first because I knew I had to catch up with that. I've been super busy. I always say that, don't I? But I have been super busy recently. Lots of antique sword stuff going on, and general life stuff as well. I bought a new car, which I'm very happy with. But yeah, just general life stuff going on. I also just briefly, before I'm going to talk about a little bit about an antique sword and update you on something, because I know most of you want to hear about swords. But also, I'm going to try, this is kind of a behind the scenes thing, I'm going to try and film a video today which touches on the issue of heritage and culture. And this is incredibly, that might seem like a simple thing in itself, but it's a very difficult thing to film. At the moment, for those of you who are involved in HEMA, you may be aware of this from the various Facebook pages. For those of you who aren't, you probably won't care about this, and that's a good thing. But there's been a lot of drama recently, essentially on Facebook, okay? And there are things I love about Facebook, and there are things I hate about Facebook. It's very useful for promotion. It's very useful for telling you guys when I've got a new video out. It's very useful for the antique stuff, all that kind of stuff. So it's useful, and it's also useful on a personal level as well, sharing stuff with friends and that kind of things. But keeping in contact with relatives that I probably wouldn't do otherwise. But it does create, like, the old adage that the devil makes work for idle hands. Really kind of, in my view, really is evident on Facebook, and a lot of people in HEMA who really should be talking about, research or training methods or how to overcome injuries or, how to teach better, all of these things. We've got so much in HEMA to talk about, and all they want to fricking talk about is politics. And I do understand that sometimes some things have to be addressed. If someone is being destructive in some way to the community, then that needs to be addressed. I do understand that, but there is a line you can go beyond, and I think we're just way past that line at the moment. It seems like every other thread on a HEMA page is talking about something political or some kind of... Anyway, I'm not going to go on about that, and I'm not really going to talk about that on the public channel per se. I'm going to talk more about culture and heritage, because I've seen people are confused about the fact that they kind of associating, because certain extremists on both sides, left and right, I'm not going to get into the political ideologies, but extremists sometimes hijack cultural and historical ideas and facts for their own agendas. But that doesn't mean that history and culture are bad, okay? Just because something is hijacked by an extremist doesn't mean it's bad. You guys all know this. But anyway, I want to say something about it, essentially in defence of culture and heritage, because, I think that tarring culture and... I mean, what are we doing? We're doing historical arts in HEMA. Tarring history with the brush of modern political correctness, there's a line which you can go beyond. But anyway, that's for the main channel. This, what I've just been talking about, has been longer than what I'm going to say about this sword. So this sword was in one of my unboxing videos months ago now. Well, no, it wasn't actually. It wasn't months ago. It was... Well, I think it was in one of my unboxing videos. I'm now doubting myself. Was it an unboxing video or not? But essentially, and I think I've shown it on screen before, but it's a very, very interesting sword, because it's a sort of, I won't say it's a hybrid, because it is a British model of sword, and it's made by Wilkinson. I'll just dispense with the scabbard, but just so you can see the scabbard's in very nice condition as well. The scabbard and the hilt are plated. So if you wonder why sometimes... some things look... there we go, an example. Some things look dark, and some things don't look dark on screen, well, in reality as well. And often it's because there's a bright polish and the polish is being maintained. But in this case, it's because it's plated and the plating remains. Obviously, steel in the air oxidizes, that is, it reacts with oxygen and it turns dark, essentially. Although with a high polish you can kind of prevent that, and certainly with oil you can prevent that, or things like Renaissance wax. But anyway, this is plated, so it's still kind of a silvery colour. The blade is in beautiful condition. It has been nicely service sharpened, which is a curious thing. I'll come back to that in a minute. But the most curious thing, there are essentially two things about this that are curious. One, the etching is non-standard. So on this side, you might be able to see, if I just get the camera to focus there, we have a crest, and on the other side we have a motto, and the motto says Fidelis et Fortis, which means I think Fidelis comes from brotherhood. I think it's loyalty and strength. Maybe not loyalty as such, brotherhood and strength. And the shield is a particular shield that was used by a number of families, about 150 families in Poland, specifically in Poland. And it's quite a famous crest, and it shows a crescent with two broken swords either side. And this comes from an apocryphal tale, I believe dating back to the 16th, 17th century, where the Poles were fighting the Turks, the Ottomans, and a sort of national hero was fighting against the Ottomans and broke his sword. His king gave him another sword, and he broke that as well. So that's why there's two broken swords. So basically, what he said, I think, was that I'll keep on fighting. I'll just, keep on fighting through every sword I break. I'll keep on fighting till the better end, kind of thing. So it's very much it goes. If you look into Polish history, this is very typical of Polish mindset of sort of resistance, essentially, because Poland has been kind of booted from every direction, obviously, as you guys know, across history, and they fought against the Ottomans and various other people across history. So this is clearly made for a Polish person, and at the back end, I've probably shown this before, is a seal for stamping in wax, and that has a replica of the shield that we see etched on the blade. Now, after contacting Richard Milner, who owns the Wilkinson records, he sent me the record, and it did record the name of the person it was made for. The downside was it was really difficult to interpret what this word says. I could see it began with an S, probably a W next, and I could see it ended with SKI, which I was like, yes, as soon as I saw ski on the end of it, I was like, yes, this is a Polish name. Probably. I know sometimes in Macedonia and a few other places, obviously Russia, you get the ending to a name with ski, but Poland most famously. But anyway, brilliant. Coat of arms, ending, name on the record ending with ski. I've got my person. But I couldn't read the bloody word. Anyway, luckily I know lots of Polish people, both living here and in Poland, and I basically started to look at possibilities for what that name could be. And I found that coat of arms, and the coat of arms listed all of the names that were associated with that coat of arms. And there were several names in there that began with an S and a W. Okay, so SW. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I managed to narrow it down to the name, and I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, I know, but it was Swiekowski or Swiekowski, or Swiekowski. Anyway, there were various variations of a name which seemed similar. So it's the same thing you get in English or most other languages. You find that a lot of family names, surnames, are superficially quite similar, and this is because sometimes they have similar roots and they're just different regional variations or spellings of that name. Famously, William Shakespeare spelt his own name I think it was 11 different ways, and none of them was exactly the same as the way we spell Shakespeare today. So spelling was fluid back in the day. Anyway, I managed to also decipher some of the other words eventually on the Wilkinson record, and I could see that the first word was shorthand spelling. I'm quite familiar with the Wilkinson records, which helps, and the first word was Monsieur, which is an interesting clue, because why would you've got a Polish name but you've got Monsieur, so that might give a hint that this person is French Polish or someone living in France or someone, these kind of clues, perhaps someone in the French military. And then the next words was I could see it was Monsieur Le something, and the word actually was, I eventually worked it out, it was Compte, Compt. Now I know that Compt is how some people in some places at some times wrote Comte. In French it would be Comte, which means count. So it was Monsieur le Comte and then this word. And this word turned out to be Świerczkowski or Świerczkowski, or Kowski, I'm not sure which way it's supposed to be pronounced. Anyway, after some searching, I managed to finally find the family who were counts and countesses with that name. And I found someone who was alive at the right time. In fact, he actually got married in the year that this sword was made. So things start to tie together. He was the only Count Świerczkowski that I could find. And he was, at least some of the time, in England, in London. So it all starts to tie together. But it seems he probably lived in Paris. Now, why he was ordering a military sword of artillery pattern, as it's recorded on the docket, on the proof docket, Wilkinson proof docket, and it's service sharpened, I don't yet know. So I'm holding off doing a public video because I don't know that part of detail. And I've got French friends and Polish friends that I've tried to get looking into that for me, because it could be that he was in the French military or had some type of volunteer role, or perhaps he was. I mean, there wasn't a Polish military at that time, as far as I'm aware. I think it was Austro-Hungarian or Prussian, I don't know. But maybe he was in some other military some of the time, or had been, or was intending to be. I don't know. But he actually died quite young. I think he was about 30. Actually, he was younger. He was 28. He died in 1876. Yeah. So this sword was made in 73. He died in 76. It explains why the sword's in really good condition, but the piece of the puzzle that I'm now missing is, why is the sword service sharpened? It could just be he wanted a sword and he wanted it to be sharp. It's entirely possible that he had no military involvement at all. But it does explain why the sword's in very good condition, because he only had it for 3 years and then he died, and presumably it got stuck in a wardrobe and kept by the family ever since, and then at some point sold off. I actually obtained this from Italy, so somehow it ended up in Italy, and now it's back where it was made, or pretty near to where it was made, about 30 miles away from where it was made, in England. So there we go. It is the sword of Count Monsieur Le Count Świerczkowski. If any of you are Polish or French, or have any ideas about this count or any leads, then feel free to let me know. And I'm going to sign off for now and see you for the next video. Cheers, folks.